Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Impromptu Game Plan podcast. As always, hosted by myself, Sarah Ferguson, and my co-presenter and co-author, Catherine Reynolds. Catherine and I have authored the upcoming book, The Impromptu Game Plan, the purposeful but also opportunistic careers of people like me. In it, we highlight stories of people who've made pivots in their lives to create more meaningful careers that align their strengths and experiences with their passions and values. And after listening to and reflecting on those stories, we draw out some common themes, mindsets, and behaviors to create our storytelling wheel of reflection. Some of the stories we've written about and highlighted in this podcast series are of people who've had pretty successful corporate careers and have then decided to pivot away from them in order to better align their strengths, passions, and values. But of course, not everyone can or even wants to give up their day job. Some people instead find ways to attach to innovative projects at their jobs, or things like corporate social responsibility activities to find more alignment with their passions and values. Others start businesses or side projects, and in fact, one of the stories in our book is of someone who's done just that. Today, we're thrilled to welcome Andy Woodfield to the podcast. Andy is a partner with the global professional services firm PwC. But he's managed to speak to his passions and his values, both within his day job and outside of it.
So Andy, over the many years, I can't even remember how many years it is since we first met, but all of the conversations we've had ever since then have all circled around your appreciation of human strengths, human values, the experiences that people bring to the table, and your ability to facilitate the conversation, courageous conversations to make a difference in the world. So if you wouldn't just mind taking a couple of seconds to introduce yourself.
So I'm Andy Woodfield. First and foremost, I happen to be a partner at PwC. Been with PwC for what I would describe as too many years, enough years probably. I think I've been a partner for about 15 years this year. As you say, I'm a kind of technology and design and kind of creative person. And I've tried to bring that and a very sort of human approach to that work, to everything that I've done within the firm and with my clients. I always believe that there are a million reasons why not, and there's usually one reason why. And I'm always searching for that reason why it can happen. And I'm generally quite impatient. I want everything now. And now is usually the magic word, not please, although that kind of disgusts my mother, who always taught me to be polite. But yeah, so I spent my career trying to do work that I'm proud of, with people that I'm proud to work with and proud to be associated with. And as with you two fabulous women, I've met amazing people on the way, and I try to stay in touch with them and make sure that I continue to learn. In particular, I would definitely put you both in this category, people that really challenge me and many occasions make my brain hurt, which I don't always enjoy in the moment, but I usually quickly reflect that it's good for me, so I'm proud to be surrounded by people like yourselves, and many others who help to stretch and stamp on my brain and make me think. And I think I would just put a full stop there. That just make me think, and I love that.
Andy, I know that just over the time I've known you, there's been a whole load of things you've done at PwC, in activities that you've got yourself involved with, the Glee Network and lots of other things that have really spoken to some of your values. Can you sort of talk us through a few of the things that you've done? I know there's been a lot.
I think, so I suppose one of the first things I did was to look at emerging technologies, and I was always really excited by what the latest crazy technology was. So I set up, this was a long time ago. I mean, when I joined Pricewaterhouse in 1998, the year of the merger with Coopers and Lybrand. And I joined in April 98. So April is a big month for me usually. And I joined the cybersecurity team as a ethical hacker. So I taught people how to break into banks ethically, obviously, and doing sort of social engineering as well as sort of technical breaking into banks. So I was always really interested in those days of what the latest technology was, and I set up one of the first sort of groups which really constantly horizon scanned for new technologies, and explored what the implications of those technologies were. And I remember things like, ridiculous things now, like WAP, which was the first ever sort of web browsing on a mobile phone, which was very exciting. And that led me into lots of work around 3G security, which ultimately probably got me to partner, because I worked very closely with a number of big mobile telecoms companies and mobilized our teams to get them to design the security to protect those organizations and their customers from that new technology, if you like, or the vulnerabilities in that new technology. So I suppose curiosity and people is what's driven me towards all those different activities. And then I felt strongly that the sort of LGBT community was probably underrepresented at leadership level. And I was a very reluctant gay role model, if you like. I remember in 2012, Ernst & Young were #1 on the Stonewall Equality Index, which was a UK quality index. And PwC was number 100.
Oh, God.
Oh my, it was awful. I was just horrified. And I'm like, well, maybe I need to step up and be a role model. Maybe I need to, do something, because I'd always been really clear that I didn't want being gay to define who I was personally or professionally, to be honest. I was Andy first. I happened to be a partner at PwC, and I was, I was also gay. It was a footnote. It wasn't, I never wanted to be that gay PwC partner. And I think inevitably stepping into the shoes of a LGBT role model, at many points I became that gay PwC partner. But I learned that whilst that comes with a lot of downsides, and people like to write your story for you about who you are, and the fact that you obviously love being in the limelight and talking about being gay all the time and droning on about it. The reality is that it's important for younger folks in the firm to see role models. It's important for our clients to see that we have role models, and not just LGBT role models, but role models of everything. So I set up the GLEE network, which stood for gays, lesbians, and everybody else, mostly because I thought it was important that it was a business network, an inclusive business network, and it was a space for everybody to come together and talk about the value of difference. And the LGBT community was eminently qualified to talk about what it's like to feel different. And that was their, that community's contribution to that group, if you like. And, so the GLEE network, the LGBT network, which is now called SHINE, and now been sort of implemented across almost every single PwC territory, 120 different countries, even those where being gay is illegal. It was really fundamentally about harnessing that skill set and having people understand how to harness it. So that was really cool. Then I got into international development, and that was really after my second divorce. I think I was desperate to do something with more meaning after having the trauma of 2 divorces. So after 2 marriages, I decided to try to place myself in a position where I was doing work that had a more direct impact on my sense of purpose. And I've always thought about the work that I do in relation to the day before I die, which sounds a little morbid maybe, but I've always thought about, is this piece of work going to be something that I will add to my list of things that I'm proud of the day before I die? Mm-hmm. And I'm lucky enough, I think, at PwC to have a fantastic platform where I get to do that kind of work, and I get to seek out that kind of work, and I'm given, in many cases, the latitude to seek that work out, which I really appreciate. So I think, my sense of kind of the human connection, my sense of curiosity, my sense of adventure, I think, is helped me, and a very, very healthy dose of severe laziness disorder has moved me, or probably reversed me over my entire career to do things that I love with people that I enjoy working with.
Andy, I'm intrigued as we start to, sort of filter into this area of your unique strengths and the things that you pay attention to, the things that you notice, the things that you learn, the things that you do things with, and how all of this curiosity, moving from technology through the various areas you've moved through, led you into the genius powers and power and dreams, which I know has been a really powerful intervention that you've taken to. I don't think you've just taken it to the UK. I think you've taken it all over the network, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, that's been done in almost every culture and civilization around the world, even some that aren't particularly civilized. But yeah, that was really, well, it was something I developed for you, Catherine, as part of the
It was very powerful, and we were very grateful.
That global talent program, although it's not what you asked for. So I rather gave you what I wanted to do rather than what you asked for.
But that was fine. I'm flexible, Andy.
Yeah. So I'm always appreciative of that. I mean, fundamentally, it was about trying. I suppose it was an evolution of that kind of difference thing. That how do you help people really reconnect with their difference, and that kind of led me to discover positive psychology and the strengths movement. And I mean, ultimately, I sort of tried to surround myself with lots of people who understood all of that stuff, and I had them throw a ton of materials at me, and I tried to distill that in my own sort of simple way into kind of all the research and the insight and the examples, etc., etc. I tried to distill that into something that was just super, super simple and practical, that would really start and end with human connection.
Yeah.
And use human connection to have people see themselves and each other as the true human being they really are. And I always kind of felt that we, in some ways, had substituted emotional intelligence and a sense of who we are for professionalism, as we kind of put on that sort of performance, if you like, of what we think we ought to look like and sound like, and what we should wear and how we should carry ourselves. And but everyone's so busy trying to appear to be a consultant, a partner, an advisor, or whatever, that they forgot why they were in the room, and they very much forgot who they really were. And I felt strongly that the emotional horsepower, if you like, that is required to connect with somebody and really understand what's going on was all being consumed by that individual's desire to fit in, to perform as they thought they were expected to perform. So Genius Powered Dreams was really to try and undo some of this.
Yeah,
so I think,
we talked to Suzanne Snowden last week, and it was really interesting what you're saying, because it really mirrors some of the things we were talking about there. She was talking about learning to show up as her own authentic self in a way that she hadn't done in her career. And she talked about all the things that she's interested in. She's passionate about the environment, about gardening, and how she's was it the Woodland Trust, Catherine? She's on the board.
The Woodland Trust, all sorts of things.
And she's on these boards, and she'd initially not really talked about some of the things that mattered to her, because she thought, oh well, that's not professional, or they don't want to hear that. And that one day she actually talked up about these things, and that suddenly the passion that she'd brought to this and sort of authenticity she'd brought to this changed the whole conversation and ended up changing the agenda of the organization. And one of the things I've always admired about you is you are your most authentic self.
It's like I think it's like a superpower, and
it is.
And Genius Powered Dreams was really designed to try to help people, even for a moment, to see that they might just have that superpower. And how would it be if you used it? And how would it be if you deliberately used it and maybe used it a little bit more often?
Yes.
And if you did that, what might you achieve in your life that you're truly proud of? Your ability to connect at a human level with people, your ability to have something unique, to be yourself, to embrace failure as part of success. All these things differentiate you and make you memorable. Being a generic professional, wearing a generic suit, or fancy outfit. And I think, this is, the entire system has been built very strongly for many, many years, and it's self-reinforcing. The people that get to the top of the system based on their performance reinforce the system. The only way you can ever be successful. And basically, I think what it says is, you will suffer, you will be miserable, you will play to your weaknesses, you will make everybody else's life miserable, you will be unhealthy, and you will then force everyone else to go through the same awful process because that's what you did. And there is an alternative. And the alternative is that you play to your strengths, that you're curious, you embrace failure because it's part of your success and everyone else's, and you have fun. And, and you're happy, and maybe you're healthy. And
definitely, yeah.
And I've always been really clear that I used to, when we all had offices, and we lost our offices years ago as partners, I used to have a thing on the wall it said work hard, live hard, and be kind. I always felt, firstly, I wanted to make sure that I had fun at work. I didn't want to go to the office to be miserable. Why would I do that?
What's the point?
I can sit on my own in the corner of the room and be miserable. That's totally fine. So I always wanted to have fun, but I've spent most of my career being reminded by colleagues that I shouldn't appear to be having too much fun. I shouldn't appear to be, in this whole lockdowns, obviously, is a bit wild for everyone, I think, trying to come to terms with it all. I was on back-to-back calls a couple of weeks ago, and I had time in between calls to make a cake. Now, like anyone who made a cake, and I don't make cakes from scratch, I make cakes from a cake mix, and I don't care what people think about that. I'm happy that I can make a Sara Lee cake mix, and that's like me done. My mum is horrified by this, I must tell you. I decided I just needed to do something different whilst this call was on, and I was listening to the call, and I had a break in between, and I basically threw 3 eggs into a bowl, some oil and some water and the mix, and mixed it and stuck it in the oven. And there we go, there's my cake. And I posted my cake on Twitter. And I was told by a colleague of mine that I probably shouldn't have posted a picture of a cake because it looks like, highly paid consultants shouldn't be wasting their time making cakes. They should be busy working and having a miserable life. And I'm like, I just was like amazed again at the sort of microaggression conditioning that people provide each other. And it reminded me of the crabs in the bucket, that if you put crabs in boiling water and one of them tries to get out, they pull the other crab in so they can all die together. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I feel like that's what it's like going to work. Everybody just must die together and be miserable together. And God help you if you look like you're happy. You need to be miserable like everybody else. I just reminded the guy that well, firstly, he's obviously never made a cake with Sara Lee cake mix because it doesn't take any time whatsoever. And it was a lovely cake. He said he'd never made a cake before. And also, he didn't really understand about authenticity and how people actually do want to get to know you. And it's okay to have a kind of a low moment and need to make a cake in between calls.
Talking of your creativity is probably a good segue because, we've talked a lot about some of the wonderful things that you do at PwC to, find your passion, speak to your passion, speak to your values. But I know that you've done various interesting projects outside of your day job. And I'm thinking particularly about your stint as a gin maker. I'd love for you to talk about, I followed the brand and thought that what you were doing was fascinating. How did you fall into that, and what did that speak to in terms of passions and strengths for the time you had the brand?
I think, so if I wind back a little, I think I kind of realized that we put way too much pressure on our jobs to give us everything. And it's way too much to think that, for me to think that PwC is going to give me everything I need to fulfill me as a human being. I'm sure we would love to imagine that might be true, but it's not true. And also, it's not true that things can happen in my sort of professional world within my career at the speed I want them to happen. And I also can't get to be as creative as I want to be always within my job. So I had to find ways, and I have done throughout my career, to do things at my speed outside of the firm, to do things at my level of creativity and interest outside of the firm, and to make connections and do things that were aligned to my sense of purpose outside of the firm, in order that when I'm in the firm, I can actually do my job properly, and I can deal with myself and others properly without expecting the entire universe to be delivered by PwC for me, everything. So I stumbled across this gin thing. I mean, I always need to be doing something. I need a project. Otherwise I think my life is over. And I'm like, I need to do something. Anyway, so I came across this amazing gin that I really liked. It was a Mediterranean gin. And I thought, I wonder how you make gin. So I just Googled it. And I ordered some stuff online to see if I could make gin. And I thought, oh, you know what? I'm going to set up I'll start telling that story on my social media. So I set up a story to explore how you make gin, and could I make a gin? And people really reacted to it positively. And in the end, I kind of felt compelled to make a bloody gin, because everyone kept asking me about it, and I'm like, it was just an idea. So I made a gin. I didn't really help myself, because I tagged in the local Dorset newspapers in the making of this gin, and then they wrote an article in the local paper about Dorset businessman Andy Woodfield launches new gin. I'm like, I'm not launching it. I don't know if I'm going to launch it. I don't know if I'll get a license. I don't know, etc., etc. So they said, oh yeah, we're still going to do it. So they did it. They did this story, and it was in the paper where I'm from originally, in Dorset, on the south coast of England.
And your mother still lives there, right?
Yeah, my mum's still down there, and I bought a house down there a while ago, and so she lives in that house. And as soon as the article was published, I started getting phone calls from wine merchants saying, you know, we've got people coming in asking for your gin. And I hadn't made a bottle of this gin, so they were like, well, when you make it, can you let us know, because we would like to stock it. And it all just got it was a very interesting marketing kind of story, I guess, in that the story and the authenticity of that story, and the tension of the potential failure, you know, of it, and whether or not could it happen or not happen, or, you know, that really pulled the product to market through the story. And so in the end, I got a license. I made it. I did my recipe. I tried the recipe once. I liked it, and that became the recipe. I mean, I've subsequently spoken to artisan distillers who produce similar products, and they spent over a year defining their recipe and making sure.
Wow.
And they're like, how long did it take you to make? Because I've won like lots of international awards for this gin. So we won gold medal at the New York Wine and Spirit Awards. We've won a silver medal, I think, in San Francisco. We won the International Wine and Spirit Competition, like a highly commended silver, you know, and that was within the first year. And they're like, how long did it take? I'm like, well, I tried one recipe and that was it.
It took me no longer than to make a Sara Lee cake. It was that easy.
Exactly. So yeah, so the product emerged from the story, and I haven't made any gin for, I think it's probably 3 years. I stopped doing it because I think ultimately, off the back of that marketing effort, I was offered the role as head of sales and marketing for PwC in the UK.
Yeah.
And I think to everyone's disappointment, that didn't mean me making gin for PwC. And that was like a 2-year role that I did. And I didn't have the time in that heavy sort of creative role. We had like 400 people in the sales and marketing function. I mean, I didn't have time to do the gin then, because I was, you know, I made the gin. I did the whole process back to back. You know, so it was a great case study of setting up a small business, an artisan creative business from scratch at extreme speed. So I demonstrated that it was possible, and I won awards for it.
That you did it sort of almost as this accident, well, totally as an accidental side project. And the whole marketing, I mean, you had no marketing background. You sort of did this ad hoc marketing campaign on the side, which was so successful that you then actually got the marketing role at PwC. I mean, there's sort of some full circle moment there, which is just fascinating. And it says something about, you know, passions and you know, going with your passions and seeing where your strengths lead you. And it's
also jeopardy. I think jeopardy is a big thing, that if you embrace that, the kind of jeopardy of the situation, you're more attuned to be able to pivot. So if you're, you know, there are so many people, you know, you guys know this, like, so many people that we've worked with over the years who have never failed at anything. And so their ability to fail, that, you know, is like, they just cannot fail. I mean, how awful. I mean, I've screwed things up from the moment I sort of fell out of my mother, I'm sure, you know, and I've been very happy to make mistakes, because I feel like that you learn. So I think that sense of jeopardy gives you power. And it's, you know, it's about, I think, ultimately about vulnerability as well. Because if you live on the absolute edge of failure, you can constantly pivot and move towards a greater success. And I think it's very, very powerful. And you're constantly authentically engaging with others who then want to be part of that, and they want to come with you. And if they don't, that's okay. And if it doesn't work, it's okay. It's, you know, it's all okay. And you find, as I did, I mean, I never imagined that I would suddenly start making gin, but it was like, well, why not? I mean, it does get rather annoying sometimes, I must say, that I did a sabbatical, and I always wanted to do animal sculpture in ceramics. So I found this course, and I made these wonderful elephants on this course, and I posted pictures of them. And everyone started saying, "Oh, when are you going to sell? Are you selling the elephants? I'd love to buy one." I'm like, people, stop! Like, it was
stop wanting to buy things.
Stop trying to buy things off of me. I'm just trying to enjoy my life and relax. So, like, so many people want to buy my elephants, and they're like, "Are you going to set up a business to sell?"
They were very good. I saw them. They were very impressive.
It's because you're so famous, Andy. But Andy, the thing that I felt most powerfully, and that, you know, sort of I was at the same time, you know, sort of charmed and inspired by when you sort of drifted into the gin business, is that you weren't deliberately setting out to be, you know, sort of a global gin guru. You were setting out to explore what it meant to actually start a business, to do something that was creative and beautiful, to actually tell a story that would inspire other people, and sharing that story persistently on social media, such that other people could be, you know, sort of guided, or, you know, sort of feel that there was a pathway that they could do something similar in their lives. I mean, it was absolutely awe-inspiring. So, you know, at a very minimum, getting the sales and marketing lead job for PwC UK, you know, that's the least you could have expected. But, you know, sort of I do ask myself the question, if it's not the elephants, what's coming next?
Well, I wrote my book,
Yes.
as you know. So the book, which is really, I guess, the story of Genius Power Dreams, and it's almost a book that helps to guide people through unlocking their own potential, and then looking at how they might apply the same principles to their business, their team, or their project that they're working on. So I wrote the book. So that was something I really wanted to do. I mean, as I get older, and obviously I still look very young.
Of course.
Thank you for that. I start to think about, well, hang on a minute, what about all the things I want to do before I die? I don't know why I'm always thinking about death. I think it's probably because I have got a pacemaker and a heart issue. So I think, well, I want to write a book before I die. I want to see if I could do that. So the book, in many ways, the book has helped me to think about what's next. And I think, well, I mean, I don't really have an answer for what's next. I need to do, I always need to do something new. I've never been good at managing the situation I've created. Like, I'm not good at maintenance. I'm good at creating. So I'm a very dangerous person at the moment, because I'm without a new project. So the book is gone to the publisher now. The book should come out in October. I hope it's as good as your book that you're doing. There won't be any competition about who makes the Times bestseller list, I'm sure.
I think they should potentially be sold as a working pair. So
yeah, exactly. Customers have often bought these books together.
Yes, exactly. People who like this also like this.
Exactly. At some point I will need to retire from PwC before I get kicked out. I'm always waiting to be told, Andy, it was a big mistake. You should never have been here. I've always been ready for that. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. I've always been drawn towards the work that we've always done together around leadership and helping leaders and people see themselves and to capture that moment, that crucible moment, to go to take the next leap. And I think that's probably what I would like to spend the rest of my career on. This is feeling like therapy now.
No,
on that note, we probably
don't feel
are
alone in saying that, because we hear that at the end of a lot of our conversations.
We do hear that.
Sorry.
We do hear that. Andy, thank you for doing this. This is wonderful. Lovely to talk to you.
And it's been so kind of you to spend this time with us and share all of these insights. It's been amazing, as ever.